A big function of the Abilene-Smoky Valley Railroad is to provide safety not only to our coworkers, but also to our uh, passengers and people on our property. So it's very important. Safety is the very first rule. I always expect a train on any track in any direction at any time. There are rules in place to protect you and to help you protect others that are on the property. We do not want anyone to get injured or hurt or worse, killed. This is old equipment. It's slow. We move at 5 miles an hour, but it's very unforgiving. And it just as soon kill you as look at you. It's heavy and it doesn't have any feelings. So we have to be extra careful whenever we're working around the equipment, whether we're on the track, on a moving train, getting ready to move the train, getting passengers on and off the train. Whatever we do, we always have to make sure that safety is first and foremost in our mind.
Cardinal Safety Rules. We're going to go through each one of these because they're very important. They're very simple rules. I call this Railroad Safety 101. Safety first. Safety is the first importance in the discharge of duty. That's Safety Rule 3.0, and it's the same rule as in Chapter 1 of the Operating Rules. It's the same rule. It's repeated twice because it's important. Safety must be the first consideration in all operations and duties. In all cases, the safest available methods must be followed. In case of doubt or uncertainty, take the safe course. Not the easy course or the quickest course, the safe course. That's Safety Rule 4.0. The next one, always be on the alert for hazardous or unsafe conditions. If they're found, eliminate them. If it can't be done, report them to the proper authority. Warn others and take such steps as necessary to protect the condition until it be corrected. My examples of what I see here and in the railroad industry, I'll be walking through the shop, like say in Durango, and when they're tearing a steam engine apart, as you guys well know, when you don't have a whole lot of room, there's a lot of stuff everywhere. So you have to make a conscious effort to try and at least set yourself up with the safest workplace that you think you can do. It's hard to do. I know it. I've been there. But if I walk down the side of a locomotive, like between two stalls, like in the Durango Roundhouse, and there is hoses and cords and everything all over everywhere, and nobody is using them, and they don't seem to be there for any reason other than they were pulled out 3 days ago, and nobody ever picked them up, and people for 3 days have been going through the obstacle course, pick them up, roll them up, put them away. If we need them again later, we'll go get them. If there's a big tripping hazard out there, like somebody left a tool and it's obviously been there for a while, pick it up and move it out of the way. Those are the type of hazards we're talking about. And that could go all the way up to, oops, I ran through a switch. Maybe Ross will never know if I don't say anything. No, go tell Ross. Because if you don't, you're setting the trap up for somebody else that's coming along later. Own it. We have to watch out for each other. We just have to. Expect the movement of trains, engines, cars, or other moving equipment at any time, on any track, in either direction. This one is a killer for me, literally. You have to expect a train. You can't get into the, I work for the Abilene and Smoky Valley, and we only run trains on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and there'll never ever be a train out here the rest of the week. No, just always expect that there might be. Because like you said, that's the time Steve's going to want to run and go do something. You've got to look at it that way.
And explain to the group how much noise a runaway caboose makes when somebody forgot the handbrake when they parked it.
They make no noise at all. Make no noise at all. That's why you'll find when I walk around, I hate going near the track. I just hate being near a track. If I don't need to be near the track, I am standing over here. And the closer I get to a track, and I don't care if it's a dead-end track in the middle of a museum with no connections, I start getting nervous. I'm just wired that way. When I was a young FRA inspector, I was inspecting a train with 2 other inspectors in West Colton, California. There were 3 tracks lined up to get into the yard, and they had holding signals up there, and the yard master would give them a green when he wanted them to come into the yard. There was 1 track, then there was a train sitting on the middle track. Another inspector and she and I crossed that first track, climbed up into the lead locomotive to talk to the crew. We're up there talking to the crew, looking at their paperwork and answering questions. And then they got a signal to come in. And they go, well, we got to go. So my coworker, she went ahead and climbed off, looked both ways, crossed the track. Just as I was going out the door, the conductor said, I got one more question for you. So I went over here and he asked the question, and the engineer's getting a little antsy, and I knew he was in a hurry. And I answered the question, and I completely lost my situational awareness. I went out, got on the nose of the engine, started to climb down, and I was getting ready to just turn around and go across. My coworker was on the other side. She started screaming bloody murder. And I looked up and I looked over there, and boy, here comes a freight train, and I leaped across the track, and it probably missed me by 25 or 30 feet. Scared the heck out of her, scared the heck out of me. If she hadn't have screamed at me, I would have been a bug spot on the pilot of that locomotive, because I was not being aware of what I was doing. You have to watch it all the time. And when you get into that habit, even on a railroad like this, you'll always be in that habit. You always will be. So that's one of the big ones, and that applies to everybody. You guys that are loading the cars up for the train, concessions, getting the food on, all that kind of stuff. If you have to cross over a track or do something, boy, be real wary anytime you have to cross a track. Again, the same way with the guests. Watch them with extra care. They didn't get to go through this wonderful class. So you have to kind of keep an eye out for them. They'll be preoccupied. They'll be taking pictures. They'll be drifting close to the fouling point of the track. So you just have to politely say, hey, folks, step back over here. Active railroad yard, you're much safer over here. Thank you very much. You know, there's ways to do it. Do not cross or allow guests access to the north side of any track during railroad operations. I think you're talking both here and Enterprise, right? Keep them on the side of the train where you can keep an eye on everybody. That way you know where they're at, and you can make that as just kind of a general rule, because they don't know. They don't know, so you have to know for them. If they are over there, it should be with somebody that's taking them over there, that's qualified to go over and show them around. Always inquire with railroad personnel to determine if there are active railroad operations. We talked about with maintenance away. We talk about that with everything. Are we running any trains today? That's the first thing we need to find out. What is moving around in this yard? What's going on? Before you start working around the railroad, find out what's going on. Always be courteous with the guests. Don't excite, be polite. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but you got to try, because that's what we're here for. They're going to tell their friends and come back and ride this train. Do not step on the top of the rail. Step over it and be alert for wet and slippery conditions. Why would you not want to step on the rail? Slip, trip, fall. You fall over backwards, and what's your head going to hit? The other rail. Always step over the rail. When you get to that switch, remember all those parts I told you in the switch points? Step over all that stuff. Stay away from that stuff. Don't step on it. They are slick. Never stand in the middle of a track. Always stand at least 20 feet from tracks used during operations. Personnel must avoid standing or walking on or near the tracks except in the performance of duty. And I can't emphasize this rule enough. There is no need to be anywhere near the track unless you have to be. When I was an FRA inspector, nothing drove me crazier than I'd be driving around the railroad yard, and here's the superintendent with the train master and the road foreman, and they're all standing in the middle of the track having some kind of a briefing, probably a safety briefing. Not a good place to be. Sometimes, yeah, especially for a safety briefing. I'll see guys that are like a train crew and they're standing in front of the engine and straddling the rail or something. And I go, guys, let's step over here and have this conversation. You have no reason to be there. You had no reason to be there. Do not go in between or underneath equipment or allow or guests to go in between or underneath equipment. Sitting, lying, or crossing under cars is prohibited except when required in the performance of duty and only when proper protection is provided. If you've got to cut underneath a railroad car, you're doing something wrong. Unless you're underneath there to work on it, you shouldn't be underneath there. And if you're underneath to work on it, what's the proper protection you would have provided? Blue flag. There you go. So again, don't let guests do it, and we should not do it. You know, we've got end platforms. Our trains aren't that long where we can't walk around the end. Do not climb on or allow guests to climb onto equipment that is not equipped with stairs or other devices that will safely allow entry. We don't want them climbing up the side of the generator car or up the ladder on the end of the caboose or that kind of stuff. Just where they're allowed to be is where you want them, and only when you want them there. I'm trying to think of any other. Those are key cardinal safety rules. Like I say, if I could say anything, stay away from the track. You guys that are in operating, and there's a rule in here too about it. If you're switching and you got a couple of cars together, if you're the engineer and I'm the conductor and I'm bringing you back, and then we make the joint where the cars come together, a couple, and I'll tell you to stretch them a little bit. You'll stretch them to make sure the coupling made. And then I'm going to look you in the eye and I'm going to go something like, I'm going in between here. And you're going to acknowledge that, yep, I'm going in between. And you're going to put the reverser in center, make sure the brake is set, and you're not going to touch anything until you hear from me again. I'm going underneath, and I'm going to lace up those air hoses and do what I need to do. And then I'm going to come back out and look at him, and he can see that I'm out from underneath there. Because when I'm in between cars, he can't see me. He can't see me. Let's make sure that engine is not going to move. Different railroads call that different things. I call it set and centered or going in between. You know, sometimes it's just a signal like that. It could be done on the radio. But the point is who's ever going in between or going to foul as an operating person, they are communicating with that engineer so they know it. Steam engine's a little bit trickier, especially if you have a leaky throttle and the snifters don't drop, because it will creep. So you've got to make sure that reverser's in center and you've got that throttle shut completely off and the brakes set hard. So again, it all goes back. You notice the theme, the closer you get to the track and the equipment, the more sensitive your antennae should be on everything that's going on around you to make sure that everything's okay. Am I protected depending on what I'm doing? Is it safe? If I'm not too sure, am I communicating with the people I need to communicate with to do this safely? That's what it's all about. We have to watch out for each other all the time. I think you guys are tired of hearing me talk. I said, geez, I wish he'd shut up so we could take a test. I'd much rather take a test.